Alright guys, listen up. This is the last thing I want to talk about, but since my last video on the topic, so much has happened that we have just got to talk about, okay? So, once again, unfortunately, we have to dive into the awful, horrible world of Alexander Wang. But first, I've looked into it, and a very small percentage of you are actually subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Just press that button, and you will not regret it. Thank you so much. So I thought we had put this whole thing to bed with the last video, where we went after account after account after account from so many survivors and victims of Alexander Wang's abuse. And in these accounts, we heard about all sorts of stuff, and it ranged from just being an overall douche, which is really not cool, but also is not criminal, to doing things like drugging people's drinks, even physically assaulting them, and raping them. Like, it's disgusting stuff, and there were dozens of people coming out of the woodwork with very similar accounts. And these are the things that you have to look to confirm whether you believe something or not. If it was just a couple people and the accounts were nothing like each other, I'd still definitely listen, but you'd have to take it with more of a grain of salt. But I thought when I put all of them together and you saw this pattern of Alexander Wang's abuse, it would be like a fucking no-brainer, but apparently people out there, they don't have brains to do a no-brainer. You know, I don't know. But maybe finally this video will put that stuff to bed and send the haters packing. I don't have much faith, because if they didn't believe after last time, they're just fucking willfully ignorant. But I'm gonna keep trying, okay? We gotta out these fucking abusers. So there's tons of stuff to talk about here, and Alexander Wang even responded, and oh my god, it's so bad, you guys, but we will get to all that. But first, there have been even more victims who have come out and spoken out against Wang. So let's give them the floor and hear from them in their own words. So the first set of stories I want to bring our attention to came from Business of Fashion, a great site for fashion news and opinion, things like that, but they got some more people on the record, and it's just awful how many there are. But they had 5, so let's talk about them. The first one had this to say: "Over the several years since it happened, I have never kept what happened to me a secret. I have always been very open and vocal to friends and family about it. Most of my close ones know this is something that happened to me. I was sickened and shocked I was not the only victim of his behavior. So I felt it was necessary to stand with these people and say his name out loud." Now that first account there is from Owen Mooney, the male model who came out with the initial allegations against Wang that really opened up the floodgates and let everything pour through. And let me just say, when people such as law enforcement are looking into allegations of this kind, one of the absolute first things they do to decide whether someone's telling the truth or not is they want to interview like acquaintances, friends of this person, and see, hey, at the time that this happened, did they tell you about it? And if they did, that's a very good sign that it is true. And Owen, in this case, he did do so. Even at the time, before he came forward, he was telling people around him that this happened. So it wasn't just a story that he made up all of a sudden. Here's another. "I am hoping that he acknowledges his actions. I'd like an apology, and I'm not looking for anything more than that." That is so little to ask for. First of all, he's anonymous. He's not looking for fame in this. He's not looking to rise his star, even though that's not how this works. If you come out as someone who is abused, it doesn't suddenly make you famous and rich or anything. But he doesn't even want money from Alexander Wang. He just wants an apology and simple acknowledgement that it happened. But as we'll see later, he's not even going to get that. The other accusers in this Business of Fashion article aren't directly quoted, but they do mention that they had 5 people come forward, and it really just bolsters those claims. The more numbers there are, the less you're able to deny it, even though some people are trying really hard. Another very interesting tidbit that is brought up in that article is a Vanity Fair clip from 2016 with the musician Florence Welch, in which she has this to say about Alexander Wang and his patterns of partying behavior.
And then Alexander Wang was like, "You're drunk, drink this water." And then it was straight vodka. I was like, "Oh!" Which is his favorite trick.
Yeah, that's his party trick.
It's his party trick. Isn't that so funny? Obviously, some people laugh about things like this when really inside they're very hurt and victimized by it. But Who knows whether Florence actually thinks it's funny or not, but really all this comes down to is another corroboration of his behavior, because this is something that many victims talked about, is the giving alcohol that they didn't know was alcohol, putting drugs in alcohol, just crazy shit like that. So this is a famous musician just throwing that out there as a thing. Like, this is well known that he does this. So the first accounts in all this stuff really came out from social media, especially Diet Prada and Shit Model Management. Those accounts were really collecting all of these things from survivors and putting them out there for everyone to see. But of course, since then, more mainstream media places picked these up and did interviews of their own, and the Daily Mail from the UK was one of those. They have an account from a man who met Wang at the club in 2019. He said that Wang got him blackout drunk and then performed sexual acts on him while he was passed out and blacked out, both in the club and in the Uber back home. It's just disgusting stuff. This is not something I wanted or something that I was going after, and it should never have happened in that way especially. I'm really happy that someone did speak out about it, because it made me realize my own situation was a lot different than what I had thought. I think there was a lot of manipulation, and I just kind of feel played. The whole Me Too movement has been more around women, and people don't realize this can also happen to men, I being one of them. I think it's a big wake-up call to gay men. And if there's anything to take away from this, just hammer this into your fucking brains, especially you people who are doubting this stuff. No one wants this to happen to them, and no one wants to come out and talk about it either. They only do that when they are forced into it by disgusting people like this, doing these things over and over again. Like, they don't want to do this, these victims. They don't get anything positive out of it. They get attacked by some people like you who are watching this video. They don't want that. It's just mind-blowing to me that anyone could think this many people would come together and lie in this way. We're going to talk about this more later, but you can just tell how frustrated I am by this whole thing, that I can't even pronounce the word frustrated anymore. That's how pissed I am at this shit. I kind of noticed him, but I didn't know it was him. But he kept kind of coming up to me and my friend and dancing with us. Later in the night, he was getting a little bit more aggressive, like pulling me, but in the club that's just kind of normal, so I didn't really think that much of it. Once we started hanging out with his friends, it was a lot different. It was a lot more aggressive. Each time I was blacked out, I would come to consciousness and he was doing something to me. I'm not a heavy drinker in general, but for me to black out, I think is very excessive. When we would go out, we would be at a table, so as soon as a drink would be finished, a new one would already be there. It was honestly hard to keep track, and then we'd be doing shots. And it should be noted that the Daily Mail points out that they have seen like Instagram DMs and texts between this guy and Alexander Wang, where Wang's like encouraging him to come out to the club and stuff like that. So these are two people that do know each other quite well. It's not just a stranger making up crazy stuff about him. This is somebody who is supposedly thought he was Alexander Wang's friend, but was taken advantage of. Again, not a person who would normally go out of their way to do this and lie about this. I was really drunk, so once I realized I was not able to make it home alone because I was drinking too much, I asked Alex, where are we? What area? And he just wouldn't tell me. Again, I was blacked out and woke up to him giving me oral in the car. This time I was telling him we are in a car. His friends are also in the car, so that's why it was so odd. So again, it's this thing that we've heard over and over in these stories, which is that even Wang's friends, this was like normalized to them. They were kind of a part of it, or at the very least enabling it. Each time he's never really surprised. Even if I become alert and jump, realizing what's happening, he just acts like it's normal. So Nick ends up staying at Wang's house, and then he says, I thought it was more of a friendly vibe. I never wanted a romantic thing or anything like that. I never wanted anything sexual with him. For me, I was thinking he's really into me, with him being aggressive. I didn't realize until reading other people's experiences it was something different on his side. Another mainstream press outlet that picked up on this story was The Guardian, which interestingly is another British publication. And it makes you kind of question, why is it a lot of these British newspapers and websites and stuff who are reporting on this? Why isn't it more American places? Because Wang is an American designer. You'd think that that's who would really pick up this story. But Wang has a lot of friends, especially in America where he's from, and it makes you wonder what strings is he maybe pulling behind the scenes to quash down the coverage of him from these American outlets. But anyway, thank you to these British sites because The Guardian has more accounts from survivors. As we discussed in the last video, one group of people who Alex often takes advantage of is trans women, which is even worse because trans people are so oppressed in daily life, politically, socially. It's so tough being a trans person. And then Alexander Wang just decides to victimize them. So that's just fantastic, isn't it? So anyway, in this Guardian article, Gia Garrison, a trans model and actor, described alleged details of another incident at a Holy Mountain party at Slake in February 2017, actually the same place where Owen Mooney was assaulted by him. Gia said, "He tried to pull my pants down and expose my genitals in the VIP area. It was just another night, and then I remember being introduced to Alexander Wang and then chatting to him. I just remember dancing around and he was chilling with his posse and then reached for my bikini bottoms I was wearing and tried to tug them downwards. I said, 'What are you doing? What the fuck?' and stepped away. I didn't make much of it because in the moment I was just in club mode and tried to let things brush off my shoulder and not ruin my night. I've done many shoots where they've wanted to put me in his clothing since and I've just said no." Again, it seems like Alexander Wang is hiding behind this club culture thing where it's like, well, that's just what we do here. No, it's fucking not. Consent still exists. My God. The Guardian also talked to a male construction worker who said that Wang grabbed his dick in the Brooklyn Mirage nightclub in 2017. He said it was shocking. It definitely sobered me up a bit. I was like, wait, holy shit. He grabbed me, squeezed me, and kept moving forward through the club with his entourage without missing a beat. He's just untouchable in these situations. He does whatever the fuck he wants, even when it is illegal. This is criminal shit. Allegedly. Don't fucking sue me, Alexander Wang. If this is true, it's criminal and he deserves to be in jail. So as you can see, these accounts just keep pouring in against Alexander Wang to the point where I don't know how you could deny them in any way, but yet people are. And Alexander Wang himself is one of the ones who is denying it because he put out a statement on his Instagram, and it's not a fun one, but just for the sake of being complete, we got to take a look at it, so here you go. "I'd like to take the opportunity to connect directly with the people who have followed and supported this brand and me over the years and address the recent false, fabricated, and mostly anonymous accusations against me. These baseless allegations were started on social media by sites which repeatedly disregarded the value and importance of evidence or fact-checking. My team is doing everything in its power to investigate these claims, and I promise to remain honest and transparent throughout that process. I am fortunate to have received an overwhelming amount of support over the last few days, and am thankful to those standing by my side at this time." Where the fuck do you even start with this one? Let's take a look at that first paragraph where he points out, for whatever reason, he says that he's addressing the recent false, fabricated, and mostly anonymous accusations against me. So the only reason he points out mostly anonymous is to try and discredit those people, saying that if you're coming forward anonymously, you can't be taken seriously. But that's not how any of this works. It's just so fucking stupid and so gross. When you see these big investigative pieces in newspapers and sites and shit, they use anonymous sources. That's how it works. A lot of the time, you can only get the information that you need as a reporter if you say, "I will keep you anonymous," because the backlash can be so huge, as we can even see here with these people being attacked for coming forward against Wang. In the next paragraph, he makes the claim that this stuff started on social media sites. Again, an attempt to discredit it and just be like, oh, it's just gossip and it's lying, or it's just petty social media stuff. But of course, that is not true. There's tons and tons and tons of rich and famous people out there, but they don't have dozens of accounts coming forward calling them abusers and rapists and druggers, whatever you want to call him. It's just him, and there's probably a reason for that. And just because it's happening on social media doesn't mean it's bullshit. Sure, social media can be a fucking tire fire garbage shit show, But it can also do a lot of great things, and it's a democratized way for people to come forward with information and be heard on the same level as someone who has way more status. And that's what's probably so annoying for Alexander Wang. It's like, hey, I'm rich and famous and everyone loves me, and yet people are listening to these accusers more than they're listening to me. And yeah, it's because there's so fucking many of them, and what they're saying is so disgusting, you fucking freak. And in the final third paragraph of this statement, he just does a lot of bullshittery to try and gain sympathy for himself. So he says that he promises to remain honest and transparent throughout the process. I mean, yeah, that's what we'd hope, but it's just a statement. There's no way to hold you to that. It's just a way to make yourself look more likable, really. He also talks about the overwhelming amount of support that he's received over the last few days, and that he's got people still standing by my side, which is like, you know, his way of trying to counteract all the hate that he's getting. So he's got all this hate coming in, lots of people are hearing about it, and he's like, but lots of people still like me, and some of my friends still answer my texts. And it's like, fucking good for you, dude. He didn't say anything here. Like, I don't know how you can refute this stuff. It's pretty damning. So definitely not happy with this response, Alexander Wang. Just fucking admit to it, you fucking loser. And one more very important piece of news that I want to talk about here is the fact that some of these victims that we've been talking about have hired a lawyer, which is great news. The thing is, I've been hearing so much from these crazed Alexander Wang defenders. They're like, well, if he actually did this stuff, then take him to court and send him to jail. Otherwise, it didn't happen, I guess. I don't fucking know how these people think. But at the same time, I agree. I would love to see him taken to court and in fucking jail behind bars where he belongs. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. However, maybe in this case it will, because it looks like at least some of these victims are going the law and order route here. So they have hired the attorney Lisa Bloom, which is not the move I would have made. So here's the thing. She actually has a long history kind of defending survivors of abuse of famous people and stuff like that. So that's fantastic. Like, she was one of the people who was really important in getting Bill O'Reilly fired from Fox News when he was doing all his fucking sexist, horrible bullshit. But on the other hand of things, she was also an advisor helping Harvey Weinstein. And there's some crazy correspondence between the two of them that makes Lisa Bloom look really fucking bad, that makes me really kind of just hate her guts forever. But hey, you know, a lawyer's a lawyer. If they're on your side, great. I hope they fucking get the justice they deserve against Alexander Wang. And now it's time for the last portion of our program today, and that is to address my haters. Yeah, that's right. Don't worry, it still has to do with Alexander Wang. So, I put out my last video on him where I collected all of these survivors' accounts and showed them to you guys, and it did really well. Lots of people saw it, which I am so happy about, because I think this is a crazy important issue that people should be paying way more attention to, because it's really fucking serious. We don't have this stuff come up that much in the fashion industry, or at least it hasn't come out yet. So, holding a person like Alexander Wang accountable is extremely important in order to continue doing so in the future with other fucking creeps in the industry. But the unfortunate thing is, when you have a somewhat popular video, there are a lot of fucking crazies that come out of the woodwork and try to rain on your parade. And Alexander Wang, being a very famous designer who has had lots and lots of success, obviously he has a lot of fans, and I counted myself among them. I love Alexander Wang's clothes. That's what I hate so fucking much about this situation. But for whatever reason, they're not able to separate themselves away from the whole situation and look at it rationally. Instead, just because they like his clothes, they defend him till the bitter fucking end for some reason. So they came into my comments and said a lot of dumb stuff, but stuff that I really want to bring up here and refute on video so that you understand where I'm coming from and you understand how dumb some of these arguments are. Maybe, you know, everyone, we have our dumb moments. Maybe you've got these kind of things floating around your head like, I'm not sure about this Alexander Wang stuff. I don't know if people are telling the truth. Well, listen up here and let's go through these and we'll settle all this once and for all. Let's start off with some good old-fashioned homophobia. LMFAO, all you gays love sleeping around with other men. And y'all be undressing married men with your own eyes. Y'all just want to go after Wang because he's famous designer LMFAO. I thought we'd start with a fun one because it's so easy to just shoot this one down. It's so fucking dumb and just hateful. But let's do it, especially because at the end there's a point that is something that a lot of people are saying. As for the homophobia, let's just put that aside. It makes it very easy to just dismiss this person entirely, as you should 100% do. But this guy also says, this is only happening because he's a famous designer, which is just fucking insane. We've talked about it a little bit already, but if that were the case, why isn't this happening to every rich and famous designer out there? There are fucking tons of them, but there's only one right now that has dozens and dozens of people coming out saying he's a fucking abuser or rapist. And that's because it likely happened, okay? So here's the thing. Statistically, maybe about 1% to 2% of allegations of this type are false. It does happen even though it's quite rare. But if you start adding 2, 3, 4 allegations, all that match up with similar patterns, every time that brings those statistics down and down exponentially. Like, that stuff compounds. So a single allegation, sure, maybe 1 or 2 in 100 chance it's false. But when you've got dozens, suddenly that's a 0.0000000 infinity 0.1 chance. It's near impossible, okay? It's just not the case that this is only happening because he's rich and famous and people are haters. There is a reason. Some of them could be false. Some of them could be exaggerated. But where there is smoke, there is fire, and there is a lot of smoke here, guys. Why he's screaming Libra energy, shaking my head, his moon is in Libra. Okay, I'm not an astrology person, okay? That's just not my cup of tea. I don't necessarily hold it against anyone who it is, but don't let this guy off the hook based on his astrology sign, okay? These are his actions. He made these decisions. Alexander Wang abused these people, and we cannot give him the excuse that my moon was in Libra and that's why I did it. No, he did it because he wanted to do it because he's a piece of shit, okay? That's all there is to it. The gay scene is a bit different than a quiet night in. So I'm keeping my mind open about this situation. Everyone's quick to cancel celebrities nowadays. So we've already talked about the gay scene stuff. Just because it is a sexually aggressive and promiscuous scene doesn't mean it's acceptable and suddenly okay that you are drugging, sexually assaulting, and raping people. Like, that is not how it works in any way. But even more important than this, at the end he says, everyone's quick to cancel celebrities nowadays. Like, okay. Yes, that is kind of true. Social media mobs love to get up in arms about stuff and maybe go overboard on things. But this is not one of those cases. This is not just a case of over-the-top celebrity cancel culture going on. There are dozens, okay, stay with me, dozens of allegations that are very, very serious. So any canceling that's going on is very well deserved. This is not a cancel culture thing. This is a fucking holding somebody accountable thing, okay? And I think this may just be, we haven't really dealt with this that much in the fashion industry, surprisingly. Even though I'm sure it happens a lot more than people are talking about, but obviously in film, you've got Harvey Weinstein. There have been big examples in like music, journalism, news media. Basically, every area has had their own Me Too moment, but fashion has been kind of a bit further behind. So a lot of people who are into fashion are really only coming to terms with this stuff now. And as Owen Mooney has mentioned, it only makes it harder that it's a lot of them men coming forward. And for some reason in our culture, it's hard for us to accept the idea that men can be sexually abused. But it's happening, and it's not just a over-the-top cancellation. He fucking deserves it. And finally, there was this guy who was so fucking dumb. I got into a whole argument with him. But he started off by saying, so basically, there are no evidence, just a couple of texts at the internet. I'm not going to make fun of him. I'm sure English is his second language. But let's just take the substance of this argument. This is not just a couple of accounts on the internet, not just a couple texts on the internet, as he's saying. Dozens! How many fucking times do I have to say it? It is dozens of accusations from people all over the industry. So many people who have come into contact with Alexander Wang have walked away worse for it because he has damaged them and hurt them in myriad ways, okay? And as we've talked, just simple knowledge of statistics will tell you, when you take into account the already low percentage of false allegations of this kind, that statistically the chances are so infinitesimally small that all of these are lies. And hey, I am perfectly willing to own up to the fact it is possible that not every single one of these allegations is true. I am perfectly willing to accept that. But some people, for some reason, if I accept that, they choose to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, so you're fine accepting just false allegations? No, I'm not. I'm saying that even if some of these are false, I believe that most of them, at the very least, are not. And even if only 75% of the things we've looked at are true, he's still a fucking criminal that deserves to be behind bars. So stop defending him. All right, I think that is all my little brain can handle. Too much Alexander Wang makes low luxury a crazy, crazy boy. But I will go to the ends of the earth for you guys to know all of these allegations, know all the new developments that are going on in this situation, because Alexander Wang is a fucking abuser who deserves to be held accountable for his actions. So thank you so much for watching. Check out the other video on screen here. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'll see you guys next time.